Here we see an adenosine triphosphate molecule. Notice we have adenine and a ribose sugar makes up the adenosine. Then on the left side, notice we have 3 phosphate groups. Now, the energy is actually stored between the oxygens that are on the different phosphate groups. So if we break that bond between the phosphate groups, we release that energy. When we have 3 phosphates, we call it ATP, or adenosine triphosphate. If we break off one of the phosphates, we have ADP, called adenosine diphosphate. So one of the major jobs of the body is to actually use ATP, and once we break the phosphate off, then we go through a process called cellular respiration, where we add the phosphate back by using enzymes called ATP synthase. There's a great example of ATP being used to do different jobs in the cell. In the top picture, what we see is that we're going to power a pump so we can move some solutes, usually ions, through a pump, and that pump is pumping those ions against the concentration gradient. So we have to power that pump. So what we do is we break the phosphate off the ATP, giving us ADP and the phosphate. So we phosphorylated the pump, transferred the energy to it, and it was able to actually pump the ions out. In the second picture, what we see actually is muscle contraction. We know we need energy for our muscles to work, and so this ATP is actually used within a specific protein called a myosin molecule, myosin protein, and we'll talk specifically about how that works. But for just now, in order for a muscle to contract, ATP is the energy source. And then we've been talking about earlier how we either put things together or we break things apart, and we said we did it. If we put things together, we're actually doing a synthesis reaction, and we're actually dehydrating things to put it together. But not only are we doing that, we're also using enzymes, and we're also using ATP to energize that reaction. So again, notice we're breaking off a phosphate group, releasing the energy, and then we release the phosphate group, and then eventually take that phosphate, put it back onto the ADP to form our ATP again. And again, that's the whole job of cellular respiration.
Well, that was a lot of information. So what I want you to do is check and make sure you're understanding all of it. If not, write down your questions and come see me during my office hours.